Hello, all praise to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So, there are a couple of things I wanted to talk about in this video. Two things, I guess, or one main thing, one easily definable thing, and then a bunch of other things that have, I don't know how to put it together. Hopefully, God helps me to express it well. But the first thing is, why are we still here in the rapture? And the second thing will be about some prophetic stuff that I'll get to that. So why are we still here? Because a lot of us, well, we all want to leave, right? None of us want to be here. But we're still here. And it's worth remembering, like, I've only been a Christian since 2018. So I'm happy. I'm very, very happy that the tribulation didn't start. The rapture didn't happen and the tribulation didn't start before then. Because I'd be in big trouble. So I think it's worth remembering that when you want to leave. It's something that keeps coming to my mind because I don't really enjoy this world, so I want to get out of here. But yeah, there are other people who were like me, who are, they're struggling. They don't know the truth. They don't know Jesus, but given a bit more time, maybe they can get there. And so it's worth remembering that. Why are we still here? Well, it's for those people. It's not, and also for us, because we're not perfect, and every day is a day to overcome some new thing and get closer to God. So I think it's worth remembering those things. Why are we still here? We're here for those reasons, and maybe there's something that we can do to help other people to overcome. Anyway, so I guess that wasn't a long message. So the prophetic stuff, there's a bunch of things that, like stuff related to the number 17. A lot of people are talking about the 17th of July, and there's definitely something to the number 17. I'm going to talk about that a bit, and some other things. I don't know how to put it together, but if you've been following this channel, that I've talked about QAnon a lot, and Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. And within the Q movement, there's a lot made of that. And the number 17, because it's associated with Q. And there's some other things that are related to, of course, the 17th of July. And there's a few people who are talking about that date as the potential rapture date. And there's some other things going on that I think are perhaps part of a deception. I just want to remind you of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where it talks about God bringing a great deception. God bringing a deception, not Satan, but God himself bringing a deception, so that those who don't love the truth who have pleasure in unrighteousness will fall away, basically. It's a final test, you might say. And I think this might be part of it, because it's confused me, because when I was doing research into QAnon, I was struck by how many times the number 17 came up, and how many meanings there were to the letter Q. And I can't remember them all now, and I don't want to go into it, and you don't need to worry. It's a sidetrack, but just something I'm pointing out, that when I was into Q and I was doing that research, it definitely was something. It was something that initially led me to think that Q was God or from God or something. That was my initial thought, before I actually had read the Bible and everything, before I realized that Q was a Luciferian deception. But there's some things that have come up, and I think it is part of God's great deception, the number 17. And there's a few things, like I had a comment on my video comparing the prophet Elijah with the number 17 and saying the prophet Elijah is, I'll read Malachi 4, there's a bit in here which is where it comes from. Where is it? So it's Malachi 4 verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And my interpretation of that is, we're talking about the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, who a lot of people think is Moses and Elijah, and there are reasons for that. One of the reasons is because the prophets can call down fire from heaven, or was it fire from the mount? I can't remember, but it's calling fire, which is what Elijah did. And so a lot of people say that those two witnesses are Elijah and Moses. And so that's how I put that. That's where I put that verse in Malachi 5. But there are a lot of people who've associated Elijah with the number 17 and saying that he is the prophet that's coming back. He's going to come back before Jesus, and he's going to put everything right. And I think that is the comparison with Q. That's the comparison I'm making, is that these people are basically implying that Q is the prophet Elijah that's coming back to put everything right. And so I think that's not true, because I think Q is Luciferian, and I've proved that in my other videos. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit with relation to July 17th, but then with relation to also some other things, July 4th as well. It's a bit of a mess, as you can tell. It's a bit of a mess of ideas in my head. I'm trying to tie them together. I just want to show you some things. So I'm going to show you some things that they're not biblical, some things that are biblical and some things that aren't biblical. I just want you to remember when I'm showing you things, like there's something from angelnumber.org about the number 17, and some stuff about, like, gematria and Kabbalistic type stuff that I want to show you, not because I believe that it's true, not because I want you to fall into it, but because I think there's a deception. I think there's a deception going on, and I want you to understand what it is so that you don't fall for it, basically. And I want you to stay close to Jesus Christ. That's what I want. I want you to put your faith in Jesus. And I don't know if something big is going to happen before the rapture. It's quite possible. And if you've been following QAnon or been following my videos, you'll know at least some of what could potentially happen. There's some very, very big things that are happening just underneath the surface of what people are aware of. It's sort of highly censored at the moment. And so it's not mainstream, I should say. So I just want you to be aware of some things, so that if big events start happening and we're still here, just don't want you to get confused. So just in case you want to read how do I start? Okay, so the number 17, I'll show you a couple of websites. This is one on angel numbers. Now, obviously, angel numbers, just the name itself, angel numbers, well, what angels are we likely talking about here? I mean, what type of angels are likely to give us this type of information? Probably not God's angels, right? So just keep that in mind. What does the number 17 mean in the Bible prophetically? I'm not going to read you this whole thing. I just want to read you a couple of bits. Angel numbers are coming to us every day, so it is not uncommon if you notice that the same number is appearing very often in front of you. If this number is the number 17, then you are a lucky person. There are so many interesting things about this number that we will tell you in this article. Most important of all is that we will tell you what this number can mean in the Bible and prophetically. It will certainly help you to understand the symbolism of this number since ancient times until now. So, this is consider this to be satanic propaganda, pointing this out just so that you're aware that there's something going on here, because I think it is if it is what I think it is, it's quite a powerful deception, because I think it's God bringing it, because there's so many things that link in with this number 17, and there's some reasons given on this website about what 17 means in the Bible. And okay, what am I going to read here? I don't want to read this whole website, because it's not necessary for what I want to get across. So many different meanings. First of all, we have to say this number is usually used as a symbol of victory, and it means that God managed to overcome his enemies. Actually, it is known that God was able to overcome the sins of humans when he decided to destroy the earth by flooding it. It was known as the Great Flood that started on the 17th of the second month in the Hebrew calendar. That was used in that time. It is also known that the Ark of Noah had 8 passengers who were with him, made a rest on the Ararat Mountains exactly on the 17th of the 7th month. According to the religious calendar, this day was actually the same day as the 17th of Nisan. And there's some other reasons given biblically why the number 17 is significant, and why they think it's related to overcoming victory. And that would be associated with Q and QAnon, because the QAnon people believe that this is the uprising of the Patriots and Donald Trump, and this is complete victory over the cabal, as in the satanic people who have been running the world. So yeah, there's a tie in there. But also, I'll put a link to these websites down below, but if you read them, just take note of how many times Jesus' name is mentioned. 0 on this website. You talk about God. And always be aware when people talk about God and when people talk about the Lord. Take note that whether or not they use the name Jesus, because if they're not saying Jesus, they could be talking about any God or any Lord. So just keep that in mind. So just a bit at the bottom here, according to the Bible, the number 17 is a symbol of victory and perfection. It refers to spiritual perfection in the first place. We should have in mind that 17 is actually a combination of the numbers 10 and 7, whatever. It is also written in the Bible that the next prophet who will come to the earth will be Elijah, and he will be actually the representation of Jesus. He will restore all things on the planet, and he will make a victory. It is very important that the number that will follow this prophet in all his victories will be number 17. Elijah is usually considered to be the end-time prophet. Okay, so I dispute what is being said there. That said, there's a comment on one of my videos that, I deleted it, so you won't find it, but it was basically saying this thing. And I think this links in with what I'm saying about Q and the number 17, and I think there's a big conspiracy going on, like behind our world, like the mystery schools, the mystery Babylon, and the satanic religions, and all the secret societies and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of things that have been set up to point towards a certain thing, basically to point towards the Antichrist. And I think that this is one of them. This is saying that the prophet Elijah is going to come back and he's going to be the representation of Jesus. Hello, I thought I'd just insert a little bit there, because as I was editing I found a new website that explained the Elijah bit a bit better and why he's associated with the number 17. So on this website, and if you'll see, I'll put it on the screen, the icon for this website is a lightning bolt, and the lightning bolt is associated with Satan. I assume it's because, well, maybe it's because Thor is Satan, and Thor, the god of lightning, and also it says in the Bible that Satan fell like lightning from heaven. So there's those connections. But anyway, the reason given on this website for Elijah being associated with the number 17 was that he appeared in the 17th chapter of 1 Kings, and also that Jesus mentioned him in Matthew 17. I'm just going to read you a couple of bits. So this is the bit on the beginning of chapter 17. And after 6 days Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain apart, and it was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Then answered Peter and said, Jesus, da da da. Anyway, so that's where Elijah appears. But then a bit later on, verse 10, and his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must come first? Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall come first to restore all things. So that's what they're talking about, and those two verses are the bit that was quoted on the website, which I'll show you on the screen. But if you keep reading the next two verses, But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. So there you go, that's the association they're making. They're saying that Elijah, who is Elias, because that's the Greek version of it, they're saying that he's going to come first and restore all things, and then Jesus saying, in the very chapter that they quoted, which they only quoted the first bit of it, saying, Elijah has to come first and restore all things, or he did. He was John the Baptist. So it's misleading. A few ways in which this is misleading. Anyway, I just thought I'd add that in. So yeah, I'm outside. Yay! Outside. Oh, look at this. It's the outside. Yay! And he will restore all things on the planet, and he will make a victory. So this prophet Elijah is going to make a victory. Well, we know that Jesus is the one who's going to come back and set things right, not the prophet Elijah. As I said before, I think a lot of other people think that prophet Elijah and Moses will be the two witnesses that come back in the book of Revelation. So that's where he fits in, coming back before Jesus. He's not coming back to set everything right. You might argue he's coming back to preach the gospel and to set that part right. But the world, he's going to get killed and then raised, and then a bunch of bad things are going to happen, and then Jesus is going to come back. So I think this is setting up the Antichrist. That's what I'm trying to get across here. So just take note of that. And if you want to read about, read about Elijah, he's in the book of Kings, and you can look that up. Maybe I'll put some references on that. I'm not going to read from the book of Kings at the moment. And there's another website here, BibleStudy.org, just a bit about the number 17. And it too says in the Bible, number 17 symbolizes overcoming the enemy and complete victory. Blah, 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 blah. So there's a thing with the number 17. There's, some websites talking about the number 17. I don't go in for gematria and Kabbalah and any of that type of stuff, talking about numbers in the Bible, because I think you can make a lot of very little and very little of a lot. We don't know what God's system is. We don't know what the numbers are. I think, going along with the video I posted yesterday about pride, don't have pride. Don't assume that you understand this type of stuff. Numbers is very easy ways. If you study for long enough with numbers, you can come up with ideas and theories about things that can't be proven or disproven. To just theories about things. So the number 17 saying it symbolizes overcoming the enemy and complete victory. Who knows what God's plan is? I'd say it's more likely. I'm putting this in the category of this is a satanic deception. But just so you know, there are things associated with the number 17 and with the prophet Elijah, at least not necessarily within the Bible, but within these ideas, the angel numbers and stuff like that. The prophet Elijah, the number 17, the prophet Elijah coming back, setting all things right. So just keep in mind that this thing is going on. There's another thing I wanted to talk about with... I watched a Jonathan Cahn thing yesterday. Jonathan Cahn on the Biblical Blueprint for America. I'll put a link in the description. So he talks about how he basically compares some of the kings in the Book of Kings to America. And he compares Donald Trump to Jehu, and I think it was Bill Clinton to Ahab, and then Hillary Clinton to Jezebel, and basically saying that Trump's coming back to... He points out a few ways in which that king's story mirrors what's going on in America, and he does make a lot of good points, and it's a good comparison, and it could very well be true that story in the Book of Kings from Ahab to Jehu is a paradigm. He's got a book out called The Paradigm. I think it's called The Paradigm. He talks about that, how that biblical story is sort of a paradigm. It's what's happening now. It's a similarity between the past and now. And he makes a good case. And in the Book of Kings, it's chapter 2 Kings 9 and 10, if you want to read about this specific bit where Jehu overcomes Ahab. And basically what Jehu does is he killed, like Ahab and Jezebel obviously are bad kings of Israel, the northern kingdom, and they're worshipping Baal. And he overcomes them and kills them and slaughters all their children and kills all the priests of Baal and stuff like that, which is kind of, I think, what Trump could be doing. You definitely argue that's what he's doing with the QAnon stuff. He is overcoming the prophets of Baal and stuff like that. But it's also worth noting that Jehu didn't go back to God. He continued in the sins of Jeroboam. And so Trump, if that story is true, if that comparison is a good comparison between what's happening in the Book of Kings and what Trump is doing, then Trump isn't, ultimately, he doesn't end well, let's say. He continues in the sins of Jeroboam. So, what else do I have to say? Hold on one second. Oh yes, I remembered. So there's a few things to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that QAnon is a very patriotic movement. It's all about the evil satanic people who've been running the world, and the patriots are going to unite and rise up and overcome. And obviously, the 4th of July in America is a very big day, an Independence Day. It's a very patriotic day. It's a very significant day for patriots, and there's a lot of thought that something could happen on that day. It would make a lot of sense for the patriots to have a victory on that day. And I agree, it would make sense if you've got a patriotic movement to use the 4th of July as a day of victory or of something happening on that day. And there's some Q posts recently. QAnon hasn't posted for a while. There was a Q post just today or yesterday saying be ready and patriots fight. I can't remember, I should have probably brought this up. But the point is there's a chance that something might happen soon, maybe on the 4th of July. For God and country, patriots fight. Be ready. So just be aware. Like Q has said it plenty of times in the past, soon or next week and all sorts of things indicating something is going to happen. So this isn't necessarily an indication that something is going to happen with related to QAnon, but it's an indication that something might happen. So we've got all these prophetic things happening. A lot of people think the rapture is soon. There's a lot of deception going around. I've showed you some deception with regard to the number 17 and the prophet Elijah, and people saying that the prophet Elijah is going to come back and set things right. And then there's the association with 17 and the prophet Elijah, and I can't remember why that association is. Very important. The number will follow this prophet and all his victories will be number 17. I don't know. They didn't give any explanation as to why 17 was associated with Elijah in this article, but nevertheless, there is an association. There's an association between... So there's this thought that some people have that Elijah is going to come back and set things right. There's association between Elijah and the number 17. There's association between Q and the number 17. Q is a prophet, you might say. I would say a false prophet, but nevertheless, Q is saying a whole bunch of things that you could argue are predictions and prophecy and bringing a lot of truth, you might say. Well, yes and no. I'd say a false prophet, but nevertheless, all these things are going on. The 4th of July, or the QAnon movement is a patriotic movement. 4th of July is a patriotic day. Q is to said, be ready. For God and country, patriots fight. Bring it up. Yeah, for God and country, patriots fight. So there's a bunch of things going on. So I just wanted you to be aware of this. Stay close to Jesus. If something big happens and it appears like either the patriots coming back to take the country back, or the prophet Elijah, or if supernatural things start happening, don't be surprised, because we're in the season of the end. Big things could start happening. So just be aware and stay close to Jesus, and don't trust anybody other than Jesus. And when does Jesus come back? Well, Jesus comes back after the tribulation. He comes back on the clouds. And there is an alien deception as well. I should point that out. There's a lot of things that could be happening soon. Just stay close to the Bible, stay close to Jesus, and stay safe. And take it easy. Don't be deceived. Yes, read your Bible. May Jesus bless you and keep you and lead you to the truth. Amen.
There's a thing with the number 17. What does it mean? 17, 17. What does it mean? I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. But there's something going on. Something going on. Something going on with the number 17, even though I don't know what it means.